My life was dismantled by a lie, a single, venomous accusation uttered over my mother-in-law's famous peach cobbler. For 6 months, I had supported my wife's younger sister, Maya, through the brutal collapse of her marriage, only to have her repay my kindness by orchestrating my own. I am writing this down because the sheer, breathtaking speed of the collapse still haunts me, and the fact that my own wife, Karen, became the primary instrument of my destruction is a wound that may never heal. Karen and I have been married for 7 strong, happy years. Her sister, Maya, was always the chaotic element in an otherwise stable family. She was 5 years younger than Karen, perpetually dissatisfied, and carried an air of perpetual victimhood that I had learned to politely ignore. We saw her mostly at holidays, where she would hold court, lamenting the latest boyfriend who had failed to meet her exacting and often shifting standards. She had married a man named David, a quiet, reliable engineer who, from my perspective, had the patience of a saint. Maya would complain that David was too boring, that he didn't earn enough to vacation in Bora Bora, that he preferred reading historical nonfiction to attending glamorous parties. Karen would listen with a practiced patience, later confiding in me that Maya lived in a fantasy world constructed from romantic movies and social media influencers. I stayed out of it. It was sister drama, and I considered it none of my business. My role was to be a supportive husband, not a critic of my wife's family. The crisis began on a rainy Tuesday evening. The phone rang close to midnight. It was Maya, sobbing so hysterically she was barely intelligible. David had left her. He had packed a bag, said he couldn't do it anymore, and moved into a hotel. According to Maya, it was a complete shock, a bolt from the blue. Karen and I exchanged a knowing look. We had both seen the warning signs for months. Maya's Instagram had become a gallery of melancholic quotes about unrequited love and strong, independent women being let down by weak men. Karen would show me the posts with a sigh, embarrassed for her sister and frustrated by the public airing of private grievances. That night, Maya was spiraling. She had no job. She'd quit her receptionist position claiming stress, no savings, and was facing the prospect of being evicted from the apartment David paid for. She painted a vivid picture of herself destitute and living on the streets. Karen's response was immediate and generous. "You'll come stay with us," she said firmly into the phone. "You can have the guest room for as long as you need." She looked at me, her eyes asking for my agreement. I gave it without hesitation. What else could I do? She was family. It was the right thing to do. I imagined it would be for a few weeks, a month at most, just until she found her footing. Maya arrived 2 days later, a whirlwind of tears and designer luggage. She claimed David had been cruel during the separation, freezing their joint accounts and refusing to let her take more than a few suitcases of her things. It sounded extreme, but I took it at face value, not wanting to dive into the messy details of their dispute. I carried her bags up to the guest room, offered her a drink, and told her we were glad to have her. Karen took a week off from her demanding job as a marketing director to help Maya navigate the initial shock, finding a lawyer, sorting out finances, and just providing a shoulder to cry on. Those first few weeks were manageable. Karen was the primary caretaker, and I was a sympathetic background presence. I'd listen as Maya vented over dinner, offering neutral comments like, "That sounds tough," or "I'm sorry you're going through that." I was the supportive brother-in-law, and it felt good to be able to help. The dynamic shifted when Karen had to return to work. Her vacation time was used up, and a major project was demanding her attention. I, on the other hand, worked as a freelance graphic designer for my home office. My schedule was flexible. Almost immediately, Maya began seeking me out. A soft knock on my office door would interrupt my work. "Brian, do you have a minute? I'm just having a really hard time. she'd say, her voice trembling. She'd talk about a difficult call with her lawyer, or a wave of anxiety about her future, or just a profound sense of loneliness. I felt sorry for her. She was clearly adrift, and if listening for 15 minutes could steady her, I was happy to do it. These conversations became a daily ritual. She'd wait until Karen's car pulled out of the driveway, and then she'd appear. She always thanked me profusely, telling me I was the only one who truly listened, the only one who understood her. I dismissed it as the gratitude of someone in a vulnerable state. She began to ingratiate herself into our household in other ways. She took over the cooking and cleaning, preparing elaborate meals for when Karen got home, and always asking about my preferences. It was helpful, I told myself. She was pulling her weight. But then the behavior became more pointed. She started staying up late, waiting for me if I went out for a beer with friends. I'd come home to find her curled on the sofa in a silk robe, the lights dimmed. She'd immediately launch into a monologue about her isolation, her fears, her broken heart. I'd listen for a bit, then try to extricate myself, suggesting she get some sleep. But she'd follow me, her words trailing me to the kitchen as I got water, her voice seeping under the bathroom door as I brushed my teeth. She'd talk about how our conversations were the highlight of her day, the only thing that made her feel calm. The dependency was becoming claustrophobic. I started suggesting, gently, that she might benefit from talking to a professional, a therapist who could give her the proper tools to cope. She dismissed the idea, saying she didn't trust strangers. The turning point came on a Friday night. I'd been at a colleague's birthday party and got home around 11. Maya was in the kitchen, leaning against the counter. She was wearing a short, black lace chemise that left little to the imagination. 2 glasses of red wine sat on the counter. She handed one to me before I could even put my keys down. "I just wanted to thank you," she said, her voice low and intimate, "for everything. You're nothing like David. You're a real man. Kind. Present." I took the glass out of reflex, my internal alarms blaring. I kept the conversation ruthlessly practical. "How did the apartment viewing go today?" I asked, referring to a place she'd supposedly seen that afternoon. She waved a dismissive hand. "It was fine, but that's not what I want to talk about." She moved closer, touching my arm. "I want to talk about you. About us. Spending this time with you has made me realize what I've been missing. What I really want." I took a step back, putting the kitchen island between us. "Maya, you're emotional right now. You're going through a divorce. It's confusing." "It's not confusing," she insisted, her eyes welling up with dramatic tears. "I know what I feel, and I think you feel it too. I see the way you look at me when you think I don't notice. You're misreading everything," I said, my voice firm and cold. "I am married to your sister. I love Karen. There is no us. This conversation is over." The tears spilled over. "Karen doesn't appreciate you. She's always at work. She doesn't see how amazing you are." "I do." That was the final straw. "You do not get to comment on my marriage," I said, my anger barely contained. "This ends now." I turned and walked upstairs, my heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't tell Karen. I lay awake all night, a knot of dread in my stomach, hoping it was a one-time lapse in judgment, that shame would force Maya to retreat, and we could all pretend it never happened. The next morning, after Karen left, Maya came to my office. She apologized, but it was a poison apology. "I'm sorry about last night," she said, "but I'm not sorry for what I said. I meant it. I love you, Brian. I know you feel something for me. You're just too loyal to admit it." I stood up from my desk, making myself as large as possible. "Maya, you are delusional. I have zero romantic interest in you. What you're doing is destructive and sick. If you cannot respect the boundaries of this marriage and this household, you need to leave." Her face hardened. "You let me on. All those long, intimate talks. Your understanding. You can't give someone that much of yourself and then act surprised when they fall in love with you. This is your fault. I told her the talks were over. Permanently. I said she needed to speak to Karen or a therapist. She accused me of abandoning her, of being cruel, before finally storming out. For the next few days, she gave me the silent treatment, which I welcomed. She was cold and would leave the room when I entered. Karen noticed the tension and asked about it. I almost told her the truth, but fear held me back. Fear of the nuclear fallout. Fear she wouldn't believe me. I told Karen it was just stress from the divorce, and she seemed to accept it. I was a fool. I was hoping the storm had passed. Instead, it was gathering strength. The explosion happened at a family barbecue at Karen's parents' house the following Sunday. The whole clan was there. Her parents, her brother Alex and his wife, various aunts and uncles. Maya was playing the part of the grieving divorcee, perfectly, clinging to Karen's side. She kept making pointed comments. "You're so lucky to have a faithful husband, Karen. Some men aren't what they seem." She'd sigh dramatically whenever I was near. Karen's mother, Evelyn, a perceptive woman, noticed the tension. "Maya, sweetheart, is everything all right? You seem upset." That was all the invitation Maya needed. She burst into tears, a perfect practice performance. I can't keep it in anymore," she sobbed. "Brian, he's been making advances. For weeks." She looked directly at me, her eyes wide with feigned fear. I didn't want to say anything. I was so scared and grateful for the place to stay. But he won't stop. The world stopped. The chatter died. Every eye in the backyard was on me. I was frozen, my mouth agape. "That's a lie." I finally choked out. "She's the one who came on to me. I rejected her." Maya cried harder, a masterpiece of victimhood. "He's twisting it. He's trying to make me look like the bad guy. He told me you didn't understand him, Karen. He said he was attracted to me. He tried to kiss me in the kitchen." It was a breathtaking cascade of fiction. Karen's face was a mask of shock and horror. Her father, Richard, a normally gentle man, stood up, his face purple with rage. "Get out of my house," he growled at me. "Now!" Her mother was comforting Maya, telling her she was brave. Her brother Alex took a menacing step toward me. "You piece of garbage. She was staying in your home." I looked at Karen, my eyes pleading. "Karen, you have to believe me. You know me. You know I would never." She looked from my desperate face to Maya's tear-streaked one. "Don't, Brian," she whispered. "Just don't. We'll talk at home." The drive home was a silence louder than any scream. When we got there, she went straight to our bedroom and locked the door. I spent the night on the couch, staring at the ceiling, my life in ruins. The woman I had tried to help had detonated a bomb at the center of my existence, and my wife was standing in the blast zone with her. The next morning, Karen came down. She had a new, terrifying calm about her. "I've been thinking," she said. "It all makes sense now. All the time you spent with her. How she's been acting so strangely around you. The pieces fit." I tried to explain again, to walk her through the real timeline, the real conversations. But she had already rewritten history in her mind. "Maybe you didn't mean for it to happen, Brian," she said, her voice laced with a condescending pity that was worse than anger. "Maybe you were just being kind, and she misinterpreted it, and things got out of hand." But her story is so detailed. It's consistent. Why would she make this up? I lost my composure. Because she's a liar. Because I rejected her, and this is her revenge. Can't you see that? She wants to break us up. Karen shook her head. She's devastated. She's having panic attacks. She started seeing a therapist for the trauma. She wouldn't put herself through that for a lie. I asked her the question that should have ended it all. "Do you honestly believe, in your heart, that I would cheat on you with your sister?" She looked me dead in the eye, and my world ended. "I don't know what to believe anymore, Brian, but I believe her. I think you should leave for a while." I packed a bag and went to a hotel. For 2 weeks, I called, I texted, I pleaded. She was a fortress, her belief in her sister's story an impenetrable wall. Maya, of course, had moved out of our house and in with her parents, cementing her status as the fragile victim. The entire family treated me like a pariah. My friends grew distant. The rumor mill had done its work. I managed to get Karen to meet me for coffee, a final, desperate attempt. I laid out everything with calm precision. I recounted the night in the kitchen, the follow-up conversation in my office, the pattern of her behavior. Karen listened, but her eyes were vacant. I spoke to Maya again, she said when I finished. She told me more. She said you'd compliment her body, ask her about her intimacy with David, that you'd find reasons to touch her lower back when you walked past. She said you talked about how lonely you were in our marriage. Every word was a fresh dagger. They were all lies, but Karen had absorbed them as truth. She's constructing a narrative. I argued. She's feeding you details to make it sound real. She's in therapy, Brian. Karen shot back, as if that was incontrovertible proof. She's traumatized. You're the one who's lying to save face. I realized then that it was over. The woman I loved had been completely captured by the toxic fiction her sister had woven. I looked at her across the table and saw a stranger. So that's it. I set my voice flat. You're choosing your pathological liar of a sister over your husband. I'm choosing the truth, she said, though her voice wavered for the first time. You're choosing a comfortable lie over a difficult truth, I corrected her. And you can have it. I'm done. I moved out for good the next day. Karen filed for divorce. The proceedings were brutal. Her lawyer used Maya's false testimony to paint me as a predatory figure, arguing Karen deserved a larger share of our assets due to emotional distress. I lost my wife, my home, and my standing in a community I had been part of for a decade. I now live in a small, sparse apartment across town. The silence is absolute. The worst part isn't the loss of assets or even the social exile. It is the knowledge that a simple human act of kindness was perverted into a weapon that destroyed me, and that the person who knew me best was the one who willingly sharpened the blade. I am innocent, but I'm the only one who cares. The lie became the truth because it was the easier, more dramatic story to believe. And I am left with the devastating, silent aftermath, a man's sentence for a crime that only ever existed in the vindictive imagination of another.